It's Thursday, January 28th, which means I have a credit card payment due. But more importantly, it means last night was AEW Dynamite and NXT. Who had the better show? Who had the best match? Who had the best segment? Find out now in this week's Minimalistic Review. NXT started off hot with a Dusty Cup Classic men's tag team match to determine who goes to the semifinals to face either Legado del Fantasma or Lucha House Party. And MSK defeated Killian Dane and Drake Maverick to advance. MSK is a lot of fun. I didn't get to see much of them when they were the Rascals in Impact, but I am enjoying their work right now, and I'm salivating at the idea of them taking on Lucha House Party. Kurt Stallion explains how he got his nickname Lone Star by being a complete loser, driving by himself, looking at the stars while making towns. Keep your eyes on the road, Kurt. Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai defeat Aaliyah and Jessica Maya in pretty dominant fashion. The Robert Stone brand representatives did get some good offense in. This was mostly a showcase for Gonzalez, who dominated both women with her strength, power, and size. Gonzalez and Kai will face the sleeper team of Casey Catanzaro and Kaden Carter in the next round. Backstage, Johnny Gargano refuses to offer, he who shall not be named, a title shot even though he beat him twice. He says both victories were a fluke even though they clearly were not. Kushida's who shall not be named. Scarlett's seen backstage casting a spell on some tiny little skeleton voodoo doll man. I hope he's okay. Back in the ring, Tyler Rust destroys some guy in pink trunks and then takes a selfie over his dead body with Malcolm Bivens. Then in the locker room, Finn Balor and Kyle O'Reilly ask each other if they can trust one another in a very heavy conversation. Grizzled Young Vets defeat Kushida and Leon Ruff in order to advance to the semifinals of the Dusty Cup Classic. After the match, Gargano and Theory come out. Theory holds Ruff outside so he can't interfere. Gargano then puts the title in Kushida's face as if to say, "You're never gonna get it." Then out of nowhere, Dexter Lumis pops up ringside and scares both men off, causing them to flee. Backstage once again, the Cruiserweight Championship match is canceled due to somebody phantomly attacking Kurt Stallion backstage. Regal reschedules the match for next week and threatens Legado that if anything happens to Stallion between now and then, there'll be some serious consequences. Toni Storm comes out and calls out Io Shirai, blaming her for costing her and Mercedes Martinez a shot at the Dusty Cup Classic Championship. Io comes out and says, "I'll fight you anytime, anywhere," and then proceeds to clear Toni from the ring. While Io's staring her down, Mercedes Martinez attacks from behind. Everybody gets into a scuffle, which leads to Toni Storm standing tall with the title in hand. Bronson Reed then defeats Isaiah Swerve Scott in a pretty good match. Bronson Reed is pretty ridiculous. The size, the strength, the speed, he's got it all. I really enjoy him. I hope he makes it big. Ciampa and Thatcher are seen backstage sitting in chairs, being very intimidating and announcing that they'll be taking on the UE next week in replacement for the guys that Karrion Kross killed last week on NXT. In the main event, worst enemies turned frenemies, Kyle O'Reilly and Finn Balor defeat the NXT Tag Team Champions, Imperium, after Kyle O'Reilly locks in a nice heel hook / knee bar looking thing. After the match, Pete Dunne comes out and proceeds to beat up both men. The heels eventually escape before the rest of UE ends up making it to the ring to even out the odds. In the end, Balor standing tall with the Undisputed Era, teasing a potential joining of the group. Very intriguing. But in Finn Balor fashion, he rolls out the ring as if to say, "I'm doing this on my own from here on out." The prospect of Finn Balor joining the UE is pretty intriguing. I don't know if it's needed, but Finn Balor and Adam Cole tension as like leaders of the UE would be very cool to see. We'll see how it goes, but as of right now, I'm not sure if it's happening. And that was NXT. Pretty good show. I'd say the highlight of the night is probably the ending with the potential tease of Finn Balor joining the Undisputed Era. Also, I'm really intrigued by the potential triple threat women's match for the NXT Women's Championship between Mercedes Martinez, Toni Storm, and Io Shirai. On to AEW. Dynamite kicked off this week with a hard-hitting match between Eddie Kingston and Lance Archer, which saw Eddie Kingston get the win with some help from the Butcher, the Blade, and the Bunny. During some scuffle going on ringside, the Bunny tossed Eddie Kingston some brass knucks that he nailed Lance Archer with to get the win. This was a nice opener, very hard-hitting, two big crazy guys. I'd like to see these two have a proper pay-per-view match. Hopefully at Revolution they make it happen with some sort of stipulation attached. Jon Moxley breaks down all the confusing relationships between the Elite, the Bullet Club, Rey Fenix, Pac, and all the people in between that are mixed in. And for good measure, he lets us know he prefers morning sex. Sting responds to Team Taz calling him and Darby Allin hoodlums by also calling Darby Allin a hoodlum, in which Darby replies, "I know you are, but what am I?" And then they proceed to vandalize some windows in a broken down warehouse. MJF and Chris Jericho defeat Stunning Steve Austin and Flying Brian Pillman. Just kidding, that's Flying Brian Pillman's son, Brian Pillman Jr., and it's him and Griff Garrison, the Varsity Blondes, not the Hollywood Blondes. This was a pretty good match. Jericho ends up redeeming himself at the end by hitting a picture-perfect lion salt and then staring into the camera with a huge grin as he put his hand under his chin. I am one of the stupid idiots that said maybe he shouldn't do that move anymore. I think I just made the list. Yes. In a recorded promo, Pac's very angry, yelling at the tiny cameraman who records his videos. Arn Anderson and Cody respond to Shaq's challenge, but it was mostly double A. He went on a very long soliloquy, which eventually worked its way around to having Red Velvet come out to be Cody's tag team partner for the intergender match. Hangman Page then beat up 2010 Dolph Ziggler that saw Matt Hardy at ringside watching most of the match. After the match, Matt Hardy's walking away and Adam Page calls him back to the ring. Matt Hardy then tells Page he's been spying on him dressing in a small tiny dressing room and then invites him to get dressed in his giant dressing room, which is basically his way of offering big money match services to help Page out. Dax Harwood and Jungle Boy then put on a match that was stiffer than Jon Moxley in the morning. The kicker was that Tully and Cash were handcuffed to Luchasaurus at ringside so they could not interfere, and boy did they try. Tons of near falls, but eventually we saw Jungle Boy lock in the STF and made Dax Harwood tap out, getting the clean victory. After the match, Cash and Tully break free and destroy Jungle Boy, including Tully doing a spike pile driver, jumping from the middle rope, and then FTR took it way too far when they cut off Luchasaurus' horns. Then in this week's AEW segment that doesn't include the AEW Women's Champion, we saw Dr. Britt Baker defeat Shayna with the lockjaw in the middle of the ring after some help from Reba with the distractions. They continued the attack after the match, and Thunder Rosa came down to make the save. Of course, Thunder Rosa will be meeting Britt Baker in a match at Beach Bash. And in the main event, the Young Bucks and the Good Brothers defeat the Dark Order in a mixed man, does it really matter who's the legal man anymore, tag match, despite a very entertaining hot tag from John Silver. God, I love that guy. So it's very chaotic and very entertaining, as are these multi-man tag matches in AEW, but in the end, it was the Elite/Bullet Club that stood tall. Afterwards, Matt Jackson announces that they will be in the Tag Team Battle Royale, and the winner of that will get a shot at the AEW Tag Team Championships at Revolution, and if the Bucks win, they get to choose whoever they want to face, and they do mean whoever. Teasing a little match between the Good Brothers and the Young Bucks. Afterwards, Phoenix comes out of nowhere, hits a double drop kick on both the Bucks, rolling out of the ring, but the numbers game is too much, and then Moxley has to come save Phoenix. All the while, Omega comes to make the save from that, and then Moxley paradigm shifts him out of his boots and straight to the center of the earth, standing tall at the end, with him and Phoenix side by side as the show ended. Both shows were pretty good this week. I'd say the most intriguing parts of both. My favorite match was Jungle Boy versus Dax Harwood. That was one of my favorite matches I've seen in a long time. And my favorite segment that had me the most intrigued was probably the Adam Page and Matt Hardy stuff. We got Beach Break next week. It's going to be fantastic. I can't wait. Thanks for watching. Peace.